We begin in Syria, where the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad has left the shape of the future government unclear. State media say the rebel leader Ahmed al-Sharaa has agreed with other faction chiefs to consolidate rival groups under the defense ministry. In a separate development, the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces say they've launched a counteroffensive against the Syrian National Army, which is backed by Turkey. The Kurdish forces aim to take back territory near Syria's northern border with Turkey. Well, for more, we can now speak to Mouaz Moustafa, who is the executive director of the Syrian Emergency Task Force, and he joins us from Washington, D.C. Welcome to DW. I'd like to begin by asking you about this agreement with the rival rebel factions. So, which are the factions that have actually agreed to dissolve?
Yeah, so the factions that have agreed to come together and dissolve and create a new Ministry of Defense for Syria are all the ones that are part of the Joint Operations Command Room that was led by the faction HTS. These include multiple factions, secular and Islamist, liberal and conservative, but all had come under this Military Operations Command Room to launch the offensive that resulted in the liberation of Aleppo, Hama, Homs, and ultimately Damascus. Now, there are other factions across Syria, the Syria Free Army, the U.S. partner in the south, in the 10th Garrison, the Syrian Democratic Forces, the U.S. partner in the northeast, and you also have something called the Syrian National Army, which is essentially a partner force or a proxy force for Turkey in northern Aleppo countryside and in the north.
All right, you mentioned the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces and the Syrian National Army. So these are groups, the first Kurdish-led, the other backed by Turkey. We are getting reports that they are clashing with one another in the north of Syria. So, how worrying is this development?
Look, it is worrying because Syria, first of all, is sick of war. The last thing that Syrians want to see, the intervention of any other country, even if it's Turkey or anyone else inside. We don't want to see any foreign force advance. Currently, the U.S. military is present in Syria with the sole role as part of the Operation Inherent Resolve, the international coalition, to defeat ISIS. And the fighting that's happening between the SDF and the Turkish-backed Syrian National Army, we don't want to escalate and create something that is going to be more difficult to manage. But in order for that to be avoided, what is really important, and what honestly has been kind of frustrating that it's not happening already, is that the Syrian Democratic Forces should be reaching out to Damascus directly and coming to some sort of deal, because they're not going to deal with Turkey or its backed forces. I mean, they're in an actual fight, and even ceasefires that they've set together have fallen apart. But there is a new government in Damascus, and it's really important both for the U.S. military directly to engage with them on the countering ISIS fight, which is the main mission, but for the SDF and for other groups that remain as partner forces to directly go to Damascus and make whatever deal needs to be made, because at the end of the day, all of Syria will be a contiguously one independent nation with one military. No more should there be any armed groups in Syria, but its Ministry of Defense and its military, just like in Germany.
You mentioned the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. They, of course, are based in a part of Syria in the north that has had, we can call it perhaps semi-autonomous status under the Assad regime. Are they likely to give that up, to unite with the Damascus-led Syrian government, or could this stand in the way of a peaceful post-Assad transition?
So before Assad fell, you had these different spheres of influence. You had the SDF in America in the north, the Syria Free Army in America in the south, the Syrian National Army backed by Turkey in the northern Aleppo countryside and in northern Syria, and then the rest of the rebel factions. Today, there is one Damascus government, and all these factions that had been in the northwest united under it. You have You have in the northeast essentially a place where the SDF has one of two choices: fight against Turkish proxies in Turkey and see how that works out, and of course the looming withdrawal of U.S. forces, or make a deal with Damascus. Because ultimately, when U.S. forces withdraw, we want to see everyone who fought against ISIS and who's not connected to a terrorist organization of any kind, PKK or ISIS, that's the way forward.
That was Mouaz Moustafa from the Syrian Emergency Task Force. Many thanks indeed for your insights.
Thank you.